Those who succeed do not hesitate to use whatever means necessary to achieve their goals. Niccolò Machiavelli. Have you ever noticed how often those who act maliciously or unscrupulously seem to thrive? Why do people who manipulate, deceive, or break rules end up achieving success, wealth, and power? It is frustrating, is it not? We grow up believing that justice must prevail, that the good will be rewarded, and that the wicked will get what they deserve. Yet in real life, the story seems different. It almost feels like there is a dark logic behind this phenomenon, an invisible rule that benefits those who are unafraid to cross moral boundaries. And as unsettling as it is, understanding this logic can give us a deeper perspective on the world we live in. To do so, we need to go back in time and turn to one of the most renowned works on power and human behavior, The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli. Machiavelli is one of the most misunderstood thinkers in history. Many people believe he was a champion of evil, but that is far from the truth. What Machiavelli actually did was observe the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. His main concern was effectiveness. He believed that in the game of power, traditional morality can be an obstacle. According to Machiavelli, those willing to do whatever is necessary, even if it involves lying, manipulating, or stepping over others, have a natural advantage over those who adhere to rigid moral standards.
Why?
Because the real world is not a fairy tale. The effective leader, Machiavelli argued, must be practical rather than virtuous. This leads us to one of his most controversial ideas. The ends justify the means. This means that to achieve great goals, such as maintaining power, conquering territories, or building a successful career, it is sometimes necessary to resort to methods considered immoral. Machiavelli does not glorify evil. He merely points out an uncomfortable truth. Those with fewer moral constraints can advance faster and with less hesitation. And when you think about it, it makes sense. While ethical, empathetic, and sensitive people are paralyzed by guilt, shame, or fear of hurting others, those who act unscrupulously move forward without looking back. They see the world as a chessboard, where every piece is an opportunity to achieve their goals. This strategic coldness gives them an advantage over others. Wicked people do not waste time lamenting the consequences of their actions. They simply act. They do not care about being loved or approved, but about winning. Machiavelli emphasizes this in The Prince. To be effective, a leader does not need to be loved, but must be feared. Love is unstable, volatile, and depends on others. Fear, on the other hand, is something the leader can control. Think about it. If you look around in business, politics, or even daily life, you will see people who thrive because they do not hesitate. They are willing to do what many would consider unthinkable, manipulate, deceive, or exploit others to achieve their ends. They are not held back by traditional morality, which makes them ruthlessly effective. But this raises another question. Is this prosperity sustainable, and is the price worth it? One key trait that sets apart those who succeed, even through questionable means, is their ability to act with virtue and handle fortuna. These two concepts, introduced by Niccolò Machiavelli in The Prince, are at the heart of his perspective on power and effectiveness. Let us begin with virtue. Unlike what we think today for Machiavelli, virtue does not mean moral virtue, but rather a combination of skill, boldness, intelligence, and adaptability. It is the quality that allows a leader or anyone ambitious to shape circumstances in their favor. Think of virtue as the ability to see a situation for what it truly is without illusions and act pragmatically to achieve the best possible outcome. A person with virtue is not bound by rigid moral codes. They are flexible, bold, and strategic. They understand that sometimes doing what is necessary to win requires breaking conventional rules. This is where wicked individuals excel. They are unafraid to act with cold calculation and intelligence, even if it means bending rules or manipulating those around them. They have a sharp sense of when to strike, when to retreat, or when to manipulate situations, and they adapt without hesitation to what reality demands. Machiavelli uses a metaphor to explain virtue. An effective leader must be both a lion and a fox. The lion represents strength and majesty, the ability to inspire fear and protect territory. The fox represents cunning, the skill to evade traps and deceive when necessary. The wicked master this duality. They know when to act aggressively to command respect and control, and when to use subtlety and manipulation to achieve their goals without raising suspicion. But virtue alone does not guarantee success. There is another element that always influences outcomes: fortuna. For Machiavelli, fortuna represents life's unpredictable events, the things beyond our control: luck, chance, opportunities, and even crises that arise unexpectedly. He believed that about half of our lives are shaped by fortuna, but the other half depends solely on our actions. This is where virtue becomes crucial. Unscrupulous people, those unbound by moral judgments, are better equipped to handle fortuna. They seize opportunities with boldness and courage. While ethical individuals may hesitate, question, or worry about consequences, those who act pragmatically do not waste chances. They dominate the chaos around them and shape destiny in their favor. Imagine a river overflowing after storm. Fortuna is like this uncontrolled water, capable of destroying everything in its path. A person with virtue, however, does not get swept away by the current. Instead, they use the river's force to their advantage, building channels, harnessing the flow, and creating something new out of the chaos. This combination of virtue and fortuna is what gives wicked individuals a strategic advantage. They not only seize opportunities as they arise, but also create their own. Boldness for Machiavelli is essential. He even states that fortune favors the bold, those who are unafraid to take risks, act quickly, and adapt to circumstances, even if it means stepping over others. But there is a catch. Fortuna is volatile. Those who achieve success by exploiting opportunities must be prepared for the moment when luck turns. Machiavelli warns that relying solely on fortuna is dangerous because it is unpredictable and unstable. Thus, true winners are those who combine virtue with the ability to handle fortuna. They know that while they cannot control everything, they can choose how to act in the face of chaos and chance. 705. This is the great skill of people who disregard moral norms. They do not wait passively for fortune to favor them. They provoke it. They adapt. They shape the world around them. But is this strategy sustainable in the long term, or will there come a point when fortuna ceases to smile on those who act with malice? If there is one common trait among those who thrive through malice or ruthless pragmatism, it is emotional coldness. While many of us are paralyzed by guilt, remorse, or shame when contemplating the consequences of our actions, these individuals move forward without hesitation. Think of a surgeon performing a delicate operation. To save the patient's life, they must be precise, calculating, and unshaken. They cannot let their hand tremble or be overcome by emotion. Now imagine someone applying this same coldness, not to save lives, but to manipulate or destroy. This is the logic of those who act unscrupulously. They operate their lives like a surgeon handles a scalpel, with precision and complete emotional detachment. While ethical and empathetic people hesitate, deliberate, and become paralyzed by moral analysis. The wicked see the world as it is, a competitive arena where survival and victory are the only rules that matter. This absence of guilt and shame gives them a frightening advantage. They do not care what others think of them, nor do they waste time lamenting the repercussions of their actions. If lying, manipulating, or sacrificing someone is necessary to achieve their goals, they do it without flinching. Here enters a powerful element, the ability to manipulate others. Strategic coldness allows these individuals to exploit others' emotions while remaining unaffected by their own. They know exactly what to say, when to say it, and how to act to shape others' reactions in their favor. It is like a poker player with an unreadable expression who deceives their opponents and wins the game. While everyone else is trying to guess their intentions, They remain in control, directing the game as they please. This ability to hide emotionally while manipulating the environment around them makes such individuals highly effective. However, this emotional coldness comes at a price. Machiavelli warned that a leader cannot afford to be hated by everyone. Accumulating resentment, enemies, and betrayals along the way is like building a house on quicksand. It may stand for a while, but its collapse is inevitable. Moreover, living without guilt or empathy carries a silent but profound cost. Authentic relationships, peace of mind, and a genuine sense of purpose are impossible when life is built solely on manipulation and the pursuit of power. This leads to the ultimate question. Can this coldness, so useful for achieving success, sustain a truly fulfilling life? Because in the end, hollow victories weigh heavier than defeats, leaving behind nothing but an emptiness that cannot be filled. If unscrupulous people seem to have an undeniable advantage in the game of success, an inevitable question arises. Can this prosperity last forever? Niccolò Machiavelli, despite advocating for effectiveness over morality, offers an important warning. A leader can be feared, but must never be hated. When hatred accumulates, it becomes the greatest risk for anyone in power. History is full of examples of individuals who reached the top through manipulation, cruelty, or deceit, only to fall dramatically and inevitably. Think of tyrants who ruled with an iron fist, only to be overthrown by their own people, or corporate leaders who, after years of greed and manipulation, saw their empires crumble when their lies were exposed. This pattern is almost unavoidable because success built on malice creates silent enemies and invisible resentments. For a time, coldness and manipulation may keep everything under control, but as cracks accumulate, the system collapses. As the saying goes, you can fool some people for a long time, but not everyone forever. Machiavelli suggests that those who rule without balance, relying only on fear and force, end up isolated. Isolation is one of the greatest weaknesses for anyone in a position of power when fear replaces trust and flattery becomes mere self-interest. Allies disappear at the first opportunity. After all, who wants to defend someone who cares for nothing but themselves? Moreover, success itself can become a burden. A person who achieves great accomplishments through manipulation or insensitivity lives with constant paranoia. Who is plotting against me? Who will try to take what I have achieved? When will my lies be discovered? This is the cruel irony. The more someone achieves through malice, the more fragile and lonely their position becomes. Distrust sets in, relationships become superficial, and the fight to maintain control turns into an endless battle. Consider the downfall of historical figures as perfect examples. Dictators who began their journeys with an air of invincibility but ended up alone, hated and overthrown by those who once feared them. Corporate or political leaders who in an instant saw their reputations destroyed by a single scandal. Power built without ethics is like a house of cards. Impressive at first glance, but inherently unstable. Everything achieved through questionable methods depends on a web of manipulations and fragile alliances that can collapse with the slightest disruption. Additionally, Machiavelli acknowledged the unpredictability of fortune. Luck, which so often favors these individuals at certain moments, can just as quickly turn against them. An unexpected betrayal, an uncontrollable crisis, or a miscalculation, and the image of invincibility vanishes. This brings us to a point of reflection. What does it truly mean to prosper? While wicked people may accumulate wealth, power, or apparent success, these achievements often come with existential emptiness and emotional isolation. The absence of authentic connections and the constant paranoia of losing what they have make life a perpetual struggle. In the end, prosperity based on fear and manipulation cannot last. Like a castle built on sand, it is destined to collapse. And when the fall comes, it is as brutal as the rise was impressive. This leads to the final question. Is it really worth selling your soul to achieve such an unstable and hollow success? After everything we have explored, one inevitable question remains. Is it truly worth achieving success, power, and wealth at the cost of your humanity? 1344. Those who act with malice, insensitivity, and manipulation can indeed rise to the top more quickly. But what is the price of such an ascent? A life built on fear, deceit, and selfishness carries a silent and often irreversible cost. Think about it. What is the point of achieving everything the world defines as success if, deep down, you feel empty, distrustful, and incapable of finding peace? While these individuals accumulate material victories, they also gather something far more destructive: loneliness, paranoia, and a complete disconnection from what truly matters. Machiavelli subtly warns about this, even if indirectly. He suggests that a leader must be feared but never hated, because hatred is an inevitable downfall. The same logic applies to anyone who seeks power at all costs. The higher you climb by stepping over others, the more unstable your position becomes, and the greater the risk of falling alone. Imagine a luxurious building gleaming on the outside, but with its structure corroded. It may impress from a distance, but it is only a matter of time before it collapses. This is the life of those who sacrifice values, ethics, and genuine relationships to achieve hollow success. Moreover, there is something that neither power, nor money, nor victories can buy: a real sense of purpose and satisfaction. People who manipulate and exploit others rarely find joy in their achievements. They are always restless, afraid of losing what they have or being betrayed. After all, they know how the game works because they created it. Here arises the most important reflection. What does it truly mean to prosper? Is prosperity simply having more money, more power, and more recognition? Or is it living a life that ultimately has meaning? Because time, that relentless judge, will one day demand its dues. When we look back at the sand that has already fallen in the hourglass, what will truly matter? The material achievements we accumulated, or how we lived, the people we touched, and the legacy we left behind. Machiavelli taught us that effectiveness might require sacrifices, but he also left us a lesser-discussed lesson. Balance is essential. Strength and cunning can take you far, but without solid values, any victory will be hollow. In the end, the success that truly matters is one that comes with peace of mind, genuine connections, and a greater sense of purpose. So here is the final question. What good is it to gain the world if, in the process, you lose yourself? And remember, knowledge is the path to true freedom. Count on me and follow full moon.